What living thing do you feel a close affinity with?
The animal that I think best represents me, or I feel affiliated with, the animal itself might disagree. um, is the blackbird, which is a very common, widespread, ubiquitous songbird found across Europe. Um, I I've just always honed in. I think you just hone in on things sometimes. For people, it might be a kind of tree or whatever. But this is a bird that I just notice every single day, and it seems to provide me with like a sense of comfort, a sense of belonging. Um, it's that whole thing around where nature allows you to understand your own feelings through the prism of something else. So if a blackbird is singing quite mournfully, it helps me think about what I'm thinking about, or the way that they kind of run across the grass. I think that there's like a playfulness and a cheekiness that I align with. So I think it's just how I see all nature, which is a way of helping you understand and describe the world via something else, because humans are complex and it's really hard to just think about being a human. But blackbirds for me do that the best.
What first sparked your interest in nature?
It's kind of always been there, so I don't know when that spark of a moment was. I remember little vignettes from my childhood, little moments of fascination and awe. I guess they're just kind of like memory anchors or moments that were like um, validating for me now to be somebody that's enthusiastic about nature and wildlife. I guess there's these little moments that validate that curiosity as a child, whether it was saving frogs from a lawnmower. Someone was mowing the lawn and I was frantically picking up tiny froglets, and I must have only been in primary school. And jellyfish, seeing jellyfish on beaches for the first time, these moments of just like awe and fascination. And actually, I don't know whether there was a spark, but it was certainly the thing that just drew me. Other things didn't draw my attention so much, I don't think. It would be shapes and smells, things that I could touch and explore. And that never really stopped. Like the fascination of just like this whole world of stuff around the human built environment, that nobody told you about. Like nobody tells you about it. So my family certainly didn't. And so, you'd find like a willow leaf with like a little lump on it, and then inside there would be a little grub, and then I'd be like, "What is this thing?" And that would just be because there happened to be a tree, and I noticed the leaf. But no adults, no one in the built environment, no one at school taught you this. It was just kind of like this unspoken, huge, vibrant thing around us. Um, and Yeah, it was just far more comforting and reliable and understand, you know, um, than the human stuff that we were given. I grew up in the 90s, born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, and this was a time of like big anti-whaling campaigns by Greenpeace. Um, and it was a big time of lots of big WWF type campaigns, which somehow entered my sphere. Um, I'm not sure how that might have been, but I was aware of this thing called Greenpeace, and I was just like, which was my first understanding from a very young age of this world is in trouble, and none of the adults around me cared. So I was just like, also, our wildlife is dying. People, animals are being hunted. Um, we're worried about the Amazon's being cut down. I was aware of that from a young age. But like my parents didn't talk about it, okay. The adults around me didn't talk about it, okay. And then there's this really big sense of like fear and injustice of just like, I think like the dissociation between my feelings about the natural world and what matters to what you're taught in school and what your parents talk about. Like, it felt dissociative. And I think, like, as you were saying, children are really, really naturally empathic and intuitive to the natural world around them. And we have to work really hard to tell kids that, like, what clothes you wear matters, like how much money you earn matters, like social normities and nicety matter above the natural instinct, which is, I think, to be curious about the natural world, to be in the natural world, to care for that and nurture it. We have to, like, do quite a lot of work. I didn't seem to be able to stop caring. And yeah, definitely a combination of, a very, very strong natural pull to the natural world, and I think what was going on around me, somehow that bleeding in and seeping into my awareness.
How can we get others to care for nature?
I would guess I would invite people to reflect on happy memories, childhood happy memories. More often than not, it's nature based or outdoors based. Quite often, can be kind of family based, I guess, as well. But I think I would want to ask the question about. I actually bumped into a not very nice man on a ferry the other day, and he was denying climate change and all of this stuff. And I just said to him, and I was like, can I just ask you why you think I'm saying to you that this matters? And what is my motivation? Help me understand what my motivation is to tell you that this thing matters and is all our work to do. And he kind of then acquiesced and started going, well, yeah, it probably is a problem. The thing you've got to do with people is to find common ground. And that it would take a lot of sort of conversation and gentle inquiry to understand where people are at, and to be able to have that reflection, which requires vulnerability, right? It's hard because people need to be vulnerable in order to genuinely share their feelings. That can take a little bit of time and a little bit of trust building, particularly if the things that you're saying and representing are things that they actively think they don't believe in, or care about. But I think our intuition is super strong as humans. We know when we're doing something wrong, and we know when something doesn't feel right, but we have a very good way of blocking that out. I know people kind of, relationships is a good one, right? People have been in relationships where they know they weren't right, but they kind of stay in them for longer than they should. Deep down, you just know, from the moment it starts that they're probably never going to be together, but we just ignore it. Or we know when we bump into someone, that person doesn't, that I feel a bit of conflict there with that person. Our intuition, as we just kick about in life, the things that we purchase in the supermarket, I think deep down we know this smells really chemically, or like, this probably isn't right. We probably shouldn't be doing this. I probably shouldn't be putting bleach down the plug hole. I think the intuition, and all people going down that road of conversation, I think, will acknowledge that something's not right. And that might be the fact that it doesn't seem right that most people can't afford to buy a house anymore. And it doesn't seem right that rent is, £1,400 in London. Like, I think, or that we're putting, sewage from our toilets directly into the rivers. Like, I feel like it won't take a long time to get to that conversation where you're just like, what doesn't feel right about what you're reading about today? If you really listen to your intuition.
What is your happy place in nature?
I think sunrise. I think probably wherever I am at sunrise, before everybody's woken up, and the dawn chorus. The beginning of the day is my just favourite part of the day. Anything's possible. It feels like a spell, and whenever I get up for sunrise, it's very, 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 very restorative to my being and sense of place.
Thanks for tuning in to Rewild Yourselves in Conversation series. To learn more about the inspiring Rewild Yourself champions and for more ways to find your wild, visit rewildyourself.com or join the conversation on Instagram at rewildyourself.